It's sure good. Okay, you guys come read this because I'm stupid.
Even say nothing like level on what you're talking about.
I thought I was getting it close. I think we look pretty good. Like a bear. Today, me and Dad are going to sit down and we're looking through the dictionary, the Southern Appalachia English dictionary, and we're going to share some words with you. These are some very, what we think, interesting words that we've picked out under the letter C, and you have to comment below and let us know, have you heard these words? Do you use these words? Without further ado, we're going to jump right in.
Go.
Okay, first word is cakewalk. Cakewalking. I think this one is one that is pretty widespread across the U.S., but it's a noun, of course. A social event as one held at a box supper or pie supper in which the participants march around seats until music stops, at which moment one standing at a given spot wins a cake. So that's pretty interesting. That's something that we do a lot here at kind of church functions or just community functions.
Yeah, community center functions when they're raising money or something, they'll always have a cakewalk.
And this is 1940, Han Hawks Dunn. Joe took Tiny to a cakewalking over at Holloway's church house one night. It's always interesting to see those, what do you call those?
Well, the
little excerpts where
little
people...
descriptions from...
the sightings. That's what I was trying to come up with, sightings.
Yeah, it's cool because they're usually really old and you kind of think back to when that actually was, and it's way before our time, so it's really cool.
Absolutely. So the next one, says called out in meeting. This is interesting. This is not one that I had really heard of. So called out in meeting. Verb phrase, formerly of a couple intending to marry to have their intentions announced publicly at a church service.
So they're called out.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Called out in meeting.
I guess they're the ones doing the calling out, maybe.
I guess so.
Or it's kind of a pre-made up thing, but you just kind of think about they're actually called out in a meeting, and it just sounds like it's not as, I don't know, it just sounds like it's not as friendly as it really was.
No, it doesn't sound like voluntary. Mr. and Miss Jones, can you come to the front to make your special announcement?
Yeah.
Let's see, 1939, FWP Guide, Kentucky. A couple contemplating marriage is called out in a meeting at least once prior to the marriage ceremony. Interesting.
Yeah. Sounds like they're being called out for getting married.
Yeah. Are you really sure you want to marry each other? Maybe we should talk about this as a church. Yeah. Okay. Call up. This is interesting. To entice a hunted animal, especially a turkey, by imitating its call.
Mm-hmm. Call up. I've heard that a whole lot, and I know you have too, just by living here. Also, I've used call up, and I've also used call in. Like calling in a turkey. Calling up a turkey, it's the same thing. It's not only turkeys, it's other animals too. You know, you could call in any kind of, lots of different kind of animals, you know, small game, not a whole lot of large game, but you could, you know, I've heard of people calling up deer and that sort of thing. I don't generally fool with deer calls very much. A lot of people do, and they believe in them. It's not my thing, but especially for turkeys, I've used them lots and lots, and it works well.
That's interesting. I've heard call in more than I have heard call up. Mm. And it says 1939 Hall Collection, to call an animal imitatively to attract so as to shoot. They couldn't call them up. That is calling, the way of calling up a turkey gobbler, calling with my mouth. That's interesting.
Yep.
That is an interesting one. Okay, this is camphor, but really this is like campfire, but it's pronounced camphor. It's a variant form of campfire. Let's see. 1907, Duggar Boston Groves. Get the campfire quick. Your paps fell out of a loft and killed himself. I don't know if I should be laughing like that. It's just the language like that is... that's from 1907, and the thing about that's kind of funny is I feel like that is something that someone around here, I could hear someone saying that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm laughing, but also, you know, like, we definitely talk like that, too. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of interesting. Just a different pronunciation, kind of for common word.
Yeah.
What else do we have over here? May have been the only one we had on this page.
I think so.
So on our next page we have candy pulling, and so it says see candy breaking. Formerly an early fall gathering and party following a molasses boil at which young people make stick candy from freshly boiled sorghum molasses. So that is really neat, and it says as by a girl and a boy taking a handful of hot molasses and then pulling and stretching candy as it cools and hardens into breakable pieces.
Yeah, I can remember my grandma Bonnie and my mama and Mama's sister, all right before Christmas time, they would always have a candy pulling, and they would be making like mint candy, different colored and little bit different flavored kinds of mints, and they would. I mean, it was like almost like an all-day thing, and then they would finally get it to the point to where they would actually. I didn't understand it then, still don't really, but they would get it to the point where that they would start stretching and pulling it. And it would be in that form, it would be stretchy and it'd be really hot. And they would stretch it and kind of roll it and almost like tie a knot in it. And then they would swap ends and they would pull it. And it would finally get to the point, I guess as that was going on, it would begin to harden. I mean, like I say, I don't understand it all. But it would finally get to the point where they would cut it into the small little pieces. And they would put it out on this big marble. A big slab of marble that I still have, by the way. It's the one from back when I was a little boy. I always just thought that was something cool to keep. I mean, it's like a keepsake. Not that I'll ever use it. But anyway, they'd lay it out on that marble. And before it would cool, it would still be real warm and chewy. And that's the one I wanted it. I would grab them as many as I could get and put in my mouth and chew on them. Kind of hard on your teeth, but that's when it was good. And when it would get dry or get cool, it would change consistency to, it wouldn't be hard, it would be
like melt in your mouth.
Well, kind of. It would cool and be harder, but it would be really soft. I mean, you could put it in your mouth and just almost mash it with your tongue if you wanted to. It's just a different consistency that I didn't like it as well as I did when it was hot and chewy. So I always tried to get to it. And I'd have to catch them not looking.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want me doing that, and I'd catch them with their back turned, and I'd get a handful of it and run out the door. You know.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I can remember Miss Cindy. It's been a long time ago, before she actually lived here. We did that. Mm-hmm. She did that here, and that is a really neat thing to see, the pulling of it. Right. And then I remember too, the temperature had to be just right outside. It has to be cold. You can't make it in the summer.
Right, and the temperature of the candy itself and that whole process has got to be just so too.
For sure.
It's pretty complicated. And,
making candy is hard.
Yeah, it's more than my brain can take in.
I've never really been able to do that either.
No.
So another one though about candy is candy roaster, a large squash similar in color to a pumpkin but sweeter, cooked into pies, cakes, or made into a sauce. Mm-hmm. This was an interesting one that Dad picked out because y'all grow candy roasters every year. Right. Just big squash. And I know Mom has videos and recipes about that, so we're going to leave that in the description as well.
Yeah, those things are good. We grow a bunch of them and then bring them in the house, and they'll keep a long time. And then, over time or over the winter, you can get those things out and cut them in half and get the seeds and everything out of them. And then you can bake them with like butter and brown sugar in the oven, and they're really, really good.
And you can substitute them out for any recipe that calls for pumpkin, even pumpkin pie. You never know the difference. Right,
and it's
basically the same thing.
Yeah, very good stuff.
I wanted to see though what reference or what siding here it had. 1925 Dargan Highland Annuals. I went calmly through the orchard, picking my way over the fallen fruit that no hand would rescue from decay. It looked unwistfully at the pumpkins, cushaws, and candy roasters that would feed nothing but the frost. Mm-hmm. That's kind of neat sentence there. Yeah. See, what else do we have? We've got two on this page. Case knife. Yep. You want to talk about a case knife?
Yeah, a case knife. What's referred to here as a case knife, and it may be that way everywhere. I don't know, but it's like a kitchen butter knife. A lot of people call it a butter knife. We call it a case knife, not to be confused with an actual case brand like pocket knife. We use it that way all the time to refer to a knife that's not sharp. In other words, like in the kitchen, get me a case knife. and that dictates that it's not a sharpened type of knife because we don't need it for whatever we're using it for.
That one is interesting because that's one that you don't hear. Most people would just say butter knife,
Right.
not case knife.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't even know what brand of knives those are. I don't think they're case, but they could be.
They could be.
But I don't know why it's always been used that way. But I've heard that ever since I was a little boy.
Oh yeah, this siding right here is interesting. 1858. I hilt on with fork. Let me start over. I hilt on with fork and teeth. And tried to saw off a bite with a case knife. Oh
Must
my
have been
god.
tough, whatever it was.
Yeah, must have been pretty tough. We've also got on this page cash money.
Yeah, cash money. That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Because especially nowadays, because cash is not as widely used as a lot of people use other forms of money now. But I think it's funny just because you could have just said money.
Yeah, cash money.
And they emphasize cash money, and that's a kind of a thing in the mountains where people will emphasize one word in front of the other really a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, money, if you just said money, you'd know what you're talking about, but they'd say cash money.
Cash money.
Yeah.
This siding is interesting. 1913 Capehart. Corn juice is about all we can tote around over the country and get cash money for.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else we got? Catawampus. This says Catawampus, but Catawampus would also be a variant. This is one that I think maybe when people think about Appalachian language, this is one of the more popular ones.
I can even use that one in a sentence. If you like.
Do it.
When you were setting up this camera before this video, it was really bad cattywampus.
It was.
And you didn't believe me, and I had to get up and fix it.
I was like, this looks okay, right, Dad? And he's like,
No.
no, not even close. But that cattywampus just means set at or moving in a diagonal manner, crossways, out of position or shape, lopsided, not straight.
Yeah, that was it.
Yes.
Not straight.
Yes, not straight. And pretty much the synonyms for that are anti-goggling, catty corner, side-goggling, and those are kind of other popular
I've heard that
words.
word, side goggling.
Yeah.
And I used to work with a guy that called it anti-side goggling. So
That
if
is
it's
funny.
side goggling, then it's kind of out of
Yeah.
whack. And he would say anti-side goggling, which would mean you'd think would be kind of straight, but that's not how he's using
That's
it.
not what he meant.
He meant crooked. He just called it anti-side goggling.
That is funny. So, we have got several words all involving the word cat.
Mm-hmm.
These are just some interesting ones that we wanted to share. So, the first one we've got is cat-eyed, which I think I've heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
1967, Maryville, Tennessee, having sharp and piercing eyes. You've heard people say, oh, that person has cat eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Just meaning that maybe in color or shape, kind of, that they're just sharp somehow.
Right.
Which is interesting. Cat fur. This is interesting. What's that fur? Cat fur to make kitten breeches. Do you want a pair? And this is interesting because that siding, 2017, Blind Pig, my mother used to answer cat fur to make kitten breeches after repeated what for or what fur. Mm-hmm. Questions. Too many what questions might elicit chicken squat. Pick it up and see what you've got.
Right. I've heard that one too all my life.
So that is very interesting, and that is doubly interesting because this reference from 2017 is Mom's blog. Mom's blog is cited in this book several times as a reference.
That's cool.
So that is neat. I just remember hearing that from Granny, but I especially remember hearing that from Miss Cindy.
Yeah.
I remember her saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is interesting. And I can just picture now if you were to say that to someone, like especially maybe a young kid.
Yeah, they wouldn't have a clue.
They would have no idea what they would be like, what are you saying to me right now?
Yep.
And then we've got Cathead, which is a large biscuit.
Yeah. Yeah, I like those. That's a word we use a whole lot around here, cathead biscuits, to refer to a biscuit being great big as opposed to a small biscuit.
Yes. Size of a cat's head.
So cathead biscuits are much better in my estimation than little biscuits.
Oh yeah, that's what Austin says. He says if you make biscuits, Corie, I want cathead biscuits.
Right.
1960 Hall Smoky Mountain folks. It was a novel experience to eat Catheads biscuits or corn pone 3 times a day. That's just interesting.
Yep.
All right, we've got another one about cat tracks. I was really not familiar with this, so this is one we wanted to share. 1919 Combs word list. Sore eyes. This figure is perhaps derived from the red spots and streaks seen in the eyes. Any disease of the eyes. So cat tracks would be you either look tired or you have some kind of disease of your eyeballs.
That would be bad.
Which would not be a good thing to have.
No.
I just thought that was interesting. That's kind of hard to picture, someone that looks like they have cat tracks in their eyeballs.
Yeah, I guess I would think they just used that term just because that's all they could come up with.
Yeah, that's really all they had.
Just something quick and easy and fast that they could all understand. They'd call it cat tracks.
He's got cat tracks in his eyes.
As opposed to, red eye or whatever.
Right. That one's pretty interesting. So we've got about one more that we want to share. This is Checkity. Adjective checked. 1949. Arno Hunter's horn. She lingered too long admiring the pretty checkery coats. Let's see. And then 1968. End of moonshining. I seed that checkity sole print in the soft ground. And then 2014. Blind pig. Personally, I was never much for flowery or stripedy. I am more of a checkery type myself. So that's another sighting from Mom's blog. I think that's an interesting one because I've heard that before. I've even used that checkity to refer to some kind of print. What's checkity? And I would find myself saying that more than checked.
Yeah, checkity is just a kind of a slang or perversion of a real word, which we do lots. I'm especially guilty of it, and I'm actually proud of it, so, if anybody's watching this that's an English scholar, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you're an English scholar, you need to click off this video right now, because we don't know English the right way.
We know it, we just choose not to use it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's an interesting one. All of these have been really good. If you had to pick maybe a favorite, what do you think would be your favorite?
Probably Cathead.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's one of my favorites.
I liked one of the cat ones too, I think. And I also like Checkity because it's funny. So right here where Mom says, personally, I was never much for flowery or stripedy. I love flowers, stripes, checkity, any kind of pattern. Yeah. Which I think is funny. So like I said in the beginning, you've got to comment below and let us know, have you heard these words before? Have you used these words before, especially in your area? And I know that we've got a lot of viewers all across the states, but then we've got a lot of viewers who are also, in Europe or Australia, just different places, and it'd just be really interesting because I know sometimes Mom gets comments from people from other countries saying your language is very similar to ours, so you'll have to let us know. This has been fun.
Oh yeah, fun times.
I love looking in this dictionary.
Yeah, I do too. It's neat. You look any much and you see words that you used to know and had forgotten about, and then it just brings it back, and you want to read the definition of it so you can kind of remember what you once knew. That's pretty cool. Absolutely. And then the words that we don't really use anymore, it's like a book of lost language. That's fascinating. Oh yeah, it is. I'm very glad that this resource exists to help preserve Appalachian language, because people don't use it as much anymore, and as time goes by, in a generation or two, it'll be gone. Right. So I'm definitely glad we have resources. We'll do our part to be sure it's not. Yeah, absolutely. We will be sure and teach the grandkids the slang version of all the words. Yes, that is absolutely right. Yeah. So thank you for stopping by to help us celebrate Appalachia. I don't know why I'm always laughing like that. Yeah. Like a creep. Way down my nose. Yeah, way down your nose. Maybe that was good. And that got us.